All right, let's get going officially. Officially, good morning. Welcome to Sunday, May 14th. For those of you who are listening afterwards, and of course, for those of you who are here, happy Mother's Day. It's great to have you here. Appreciate you taking time out of your day. Oh, excellent. Start the day. I get to move some energy. Beautiful. Oh, pardon me. Not really. You gotta love that. I read a really cool book yesterday called, well, not the whole book, called Energy Medicine. And I'm sorry, I can't think of the author, but it's about healing your body using your own body's energy system. And it's mostly based in science, quantum physics, actually. Really cool book. So if you like to read about stuff like that, Energy Medicine. She has a few. I bought the second one. Sorry, that again, can't remember the author, but if it's easily searchable. So you're if that feels like it resonates with you, pick it up. It's an awesome little book. And so one of the moments that I want to share with you is that she talks about how if we don't stretch, and this is really interesting for me because I've most of my life I've been let me rephrase that, up until now I've not been very flexible. And so what she talks about is flexibility and stretching is a bit different, but what she shares in her book is that if we're not stretching on a regular basis, we're actually not making room, like physically, but energetically in our body for our energy to move. And so stiffness and aging, disease is a consequence of the energy not flowing through our body. And so I thought that was very interesting, that just hearing about the benefits of yoga from at different times in my life, and fitness trainers encouraging me to stretch. And the results that I've had have always been not what I wanted. The not being as being, I guess, more impatient or patient. And so that was really interesting. And the other piece I want to share with you is I was having a conversation with Tracy yesterday, and we were talking about being impatient or patient. And when you look up the definition of impatient, one of them, there's several, of course. One definition is tolerating behavior, right? Which to me, tolerating something is not really a positive, right? So there is a negative connotation to the word impatient, which we or pardon me, patience. Let me rephrase that. There's a negative connotation to patience. So we think patience is a virtue and being impatient is not. So look it up, because the definition of impatient, that whereas one was eagerly restless, I think was the definition, wasn't it? Yeah, Tracy, yeah, for being impatient, eagerly restless, which restlessly eager, thank you. Oh my goodness. Restlessly eager for being impatient, which has way more of a positive vibration to it. And patience was the one that we looked at. It was like, I don't want to be patient, because it talked about tolerating things. I was like, I don't want to be tolerant of behaviors and things like that. Because for me, the word tolerance in that context had a negative connotation to it. So, excuse me, words are really, really important. And when we are owning something, when we're being radically honest, and we are looking at things like, so for example, I would have said before that I'm impatient, right? That was something that I was told most of my life, to be more patient. I'm impatient. But when I looked up the word, I was like, I don't want to own that. I don't want that I am statement in the context of how it's in the dictionary. I don't want to own that. And so that's when we're talking about the I am from yesterday, that this is part of it, is like, what words, what virtues and values are you saying that you have or don't have? And is that really what you mean? So being clear about how the energy of the language at an unconscious level affects you, and bringing it into awareness, bringing it into your consciousness. And so words have power, right? So I think about that when I was a kid, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And there's truth to that, in the sense of I get to make the decision of the meaning of the word, which is true. And if I don't know what the meaning of the word is, at an unconscious level, I'm accepting the definition. This is my point of view. I'm accepting the definition of what is out there in the world of energy. So before I and before you own anything, be clear. Is that actually what you want to own? Is that actually so that I am and that I have? And how we can move ourselves into a different space and place is, and I said it this morning, up until now, I have been labeled, right? Meaning I'm not accepting that label any longer. So I'm in awareness. I'm not trying to pretend it didn't happen, but it's the up until now. And I think that comes from Mary Morrissey, I think, is where that little, I call it my ninja trick, right? Up until now, that happens. So as we continue in the book, You Too Can Be Prosperous by Robert A. Russell, what he said is that, I kind of moved a couple of pages ahead, but the next step to reverse every negative, the instant it appears, by giving all the power to the consciousness of good. So the moment the negative statement comes in, right, you'll give no power to failure, delay, doubt, disappointment, despair, reverses, misfortune, or bad luck. What the mind makes, it can unmake. Do not get upset when things do not turn out right. Do not expect the worst when things go wrong. So things like waiting for the other shoe to drop. We want to remove those kinds of statements. Or bad things happen in 3, Murphy's Law. My daughter used to say that, Mackenzie, bad things happen in 3. And I said, or they don't. Right? Or we could make a new decision. Know that your mind has the power to make anything right. Refuse to be depressed or disappointed. Give no place to worry, fear, doubt, or uncertainty. When losses, misfortunes, and troubles come, meet them with the conviction that they are only temporary. And I think this is so important, that the condition that we have is only temporary. And I will say things like, so far I have 100% success rate in figuring everything out. And I'm confident that each one of you could say the same thing, that you have 100% success rate in figuring things out. It might have taken time, it might have taken effort, there might have been bumps along the way, but you have a record. There's so much evidence of you being able to figure things out. And that every loss that we have, every negative, every lower density experience we have is temporary. And even if it's been, years in the making, it's still temporary, meaning our experiences kind of go like this. It's not very often, although I'm sure there are some people who just experience the lower, right, as a constant. But in general, right, our lives are the ups and downs, the valleys, the hills. Do not let interruptions, recessions, or delays make you impatient. Oh, there's that word. When you meet conflict or inharmony, refuse to become divided or distressed in your thought. You can, he said, hold rigidly St. Paul's statement, none of these things move me. Look upon defeats, failures, and mistakes as putty in your hands. Maintain the attitude and feelings that will awaken and bring out the best that it is in you. Know that you can change circumstances and conditions by changing your consciousness. That is, I think, probably the biggest piece for me has been, one, we go back to when we're talking about the universal law of non-resistance. So was it last week? I think we talked about that, right? And looking at your obstacles and challenges as not something you have to bust through or move through, but rather something that you can move around, like a stream. You can whittle away at it, like the water. We don't have to go through anything, but what would it be like to just surround it, be around it, engulf it? And what attitude would be necessary, what actions, what thoughts, what emotions, right? What feelings. And so in bringing this to the forefront, it's we change the circumstances, the conditions are changed by consciousness. And what we try to do is change the circumstance. We need to change the consciousness. So we try to change. So if we're wanting more money in our business or more clients in our business, that we could say that the experience we have is not enough. We might not feel that, but just for the sake of this particular example. And what we're trying to change the circumstance of more clients or more money or right, more health is mine, more health. And what we're to do is to change the consciousness, the thoughts, the actions, the beliefs, because the effect, which would be clients, money, right, relationship, health, all of those things, that's the effect. The cause is the consciousness, the thoughts that we hold, the empowering beliefs or the limiting beliefs. And that can be frustrating because if we want it like now, especially once if we've made the decision now, right? We demand or command it now. And what can happen is we do have the ability, we do have the connection to God's source energy to command it now. And with I would say the right attitude, meaning we can demand or command it and not have an attachment to it. So, and that can be the tough piece, right? I'm sure all of you, I know I have experienced many times in my life when I wanted something now and had an attachment as to when it came or what it looked like. And then that's the check-in for you is that the ego, right? Is that the ego demanding or commanding, or is that the connection to divine source? Is that the God, the divinity in you commanding now? And this is, I think, that probably the diciest part, right? This is the journey that we're experiencing. He says it makes no difference how poorly things may be going in the outer world. Your job is to keep things going right in your mind. The more you become conscious of the mind, the more your subconscious powers will produce for you. That is the law of increase. If you train your mind to think in terms of abundance, you will experience abundance in every department of your life. The things you desire will come to you in abundant measure. And the training of this, for example, we can talk about things like, I'll use the weather as an example, right? When it's raining, we can talk about and focus on a lack of sun, or we could focus on the abundance of moisture. If it's a snowstorm, we can talk about the cold or the lack of heat, or we can talk on the abundance of snow, the abundance of cold that's present. So everything can be looked at through that lens of changing and what am I experiencing an abundance of? So as when I was facing bankruptcy, as I started to unpack this when I first read You Too Can Be Prosperous, I was experiencing an abundance of bills, right? An abundance of debt, an abundance of, so we can focus on that. Now it's not about tricking your mind, but it kind of is, in the sense of being so clear that you see where the abundance lies. So when I spent all of those years focusing on not going bankrupt, right, and focusing on the humiliation that I was experiencing and the worry and the doubt, now when I find myself in a situation, I've not had to face that, but when I've had like my ebbs and flows of cash flow, rather than being worried about the cash flow being not where I want, I can pause and bring the universal laws into it and go, it appears that I have an abundance of, right? And then go into, what do I have an abundance of? Versus focusing on the worry, the lack, or the debt. And this takes practice. And then gratitude. And then asking, are there the different ways that I need to behave in the future? Like, do I need to take different action? And sometimes it's like, well, what did I do? We don't go back to what did I do wrong, but rather look at it as an opportunity of, what could I maybe have done differently, if anything at all? What would I do differently? And bringing that to the forefront. Right? Because sometimes, truth be told, we have habits from childhood that we need to adjust. Right? And so it can be habits, it can be beliefs. So again, it's just this radical honesty all the time. And so we can decide, are we going to focus our energy on worry, doubt, or fear? Or are we going to focus our energy on focusing on what we don't have or what we don't want? Or can we take a moment in time and focus on what we do want? Pause, analyze, contemplate, look at the situation as it is, and then make a different decision. What new belief needs to be created? What new thought? What new action? And this is, for me, when I bring in the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So if I want something different, then I, right, the physical body, right, mind, body, soul, needs to do something different. If I want a different result, then something different has to happen. And I've gone into, like, I don't know what to do, right? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. That I remind myself, of course you don't, because if you did, you would do it, because you're intelligent, you're resourceful, you're resilient. Those are the kinds of self-talk that I've done. And so if you're only relying on your intellect to make decisions, and you're not tying in like body, mind, and soul, if you're delaying the relationship with the divine in you, and you're going to do things that your brain knows, that your intellect knows. And your intellect and your brain, so your conscious thoughts. So this is where we have the polarization of intellect or intelligence. Your intelligence will take you down the road that it's taken you down a million times before. So it's important to I guess, really approach things from that triune perspective, right? The body, mind, and soul perspective. And utilize, whether it's guides that you call or divine, utilize those resources, the universal intelligence, to guide you. Because the universal law of supply says, if you have the desire, the ways and means to have that happen are also there with you. Your intellect, though, using your five senses, may not be able to see them. And then this is where we tie into having faith in divine, having faith in that the answer, the ways and means are there. However, it is not going to be laid out in a 5-step plan. indexed 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. It will be indexed in, I have this, sense, thought, I'm drawn to an action step, and then take the action, and then the next action unfolds, and the next action unfolds, and the next action unfolds. And the reason this takes time is because we are dealing with the intellect. We are dealing with our personalities, right? We are dealing with our habits, both positive and, let's say, not so positive, right? We are dealing in this journey, we're dealing with the beliefs, limiting and empowering. We are dealing with our recollection of the past. So the journey takes time because we keep on bringing our personality into it. And there's no wrong, right? No right or wrong in that, no bad. It just, that's the isness of it. until we can completely surrender to the I am within us, meaning the God within us, the divine, our divine selves, and until we completely surrender into that, the personality will always be part of it. And the ego has an agenda, which is to keep you safe. So doing something that feels scary, right, or doing something you've never done, the ego, the id, right, the I, wants to keep you to a place of safety and security. Because we haven't been taught what to do with pain. We've been taught what to do with frustration or anger or disappointment. As a society, we're not really, taught what to do. Most of us aren't taught how to handle pain, abandonment stuff, rejection. And because if we did, then they wouldn't even call it abandonment or rejection. So you see the loop. As the human being, it's like, oh, there's the loop, and there's the loop, and there's the loop. And so this is where I would suggest we just be patient. And be in awareness. And be aware of where you're not in non-resonance, or where you're in resistance. Right? Where you're in resistance to doing something, or having something, or being something. Because this is where it all ties in. So for me, it's almost like layers of a grid. That's kind of how I see it, right? Layers upon layers. And each time I unpack something, comes out. And when we have our aha moments, it's like, oh, and then we can unpack that, and we'll experience that. And then the next time we'll experience the next layer to it. And sometimes when we have our aha moments, we let go of a belief fully, we won't be able to recall that. We won't be able to recall that. And so then it's the coolest experience. Right? All right. Just going to read the comments. Diane, thank you. Diane says, we confuse ourselves holding on to a linear timeline. What is now anyway? Exactly, right? I mean, truth be told, if we opened ourselves up to the possibilities of what quantum physics is talking about, there's multiverses, right? And so there's many of us, right, running around at different timelines. And so we can, what is now? And bask in that. And then the question, if you change your thoughts to pause and the blocks, the negative removed, and we focus on how to open the mind to positive possibility, and then we're open. Yes, right. And I would say that the negative thoughts are, so this has been my own personal experience, they're not necessarily gone forever. At this point in time, this has been my experience, but I'm so aware of them. When they pop up, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm not buying into that one, right? Like it's so apparent, and it's like, oh wow. And then there's, for me, then I have awe. Like I'm like, holy shit, like I am so powerful. And that's how I own it. And I would encourage all of you to do the same thing, right? Those of you that coach with me one-to-one, you'll hear me say that all the time. You are so powerful. I'm so powerful that I created this to happen. And it can be that limiting belief, right? I'm so powerful that I created feeling like I'm missing out on something and that people are holding out on me. And that I'm like the kid on the school grounds that doesn't get called to play soccer because I'm not good at soccer. Pardon me. Let me rephrase that. Up until now, I haven't been good with soccer, right? And so, that's the power of what we're doing, is to be in awe, and catching us in phrases like that. Up until now, I haven't been good in soccer, right? And just being an awareness that we bring a lot of our core wounds and core fears into our present day, and the multiple layers of it, the multiple layers of the experience. And then gratitude for our existence, gratitude for the outcome, gratitude for the opportunity to see the truth in this. Years ago, I had a mentor, and he would talk about when we're in pain, and not necessarily physical pain, but more of that mental anguish. He said it's like a beacon of basically light saying, pay attention to me, meh, 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 right? This is the thing to pay attention to. This is the thing to pay attention to, right? Versus trying to just dismiss it, set it aside, and not deal with it. Right. So whenever we have that, we just have this opportunity of, oh, this is the power and presence that I need to kind of dive into and go into. And then there's joy. And you can experience joy within the experience of pain, simply by making the statement of, look at how powerful I am, that I created this. Look at how powerful that I am. And so again, I'll just use my own, look at how powerful I am. I created my body to be in pain. And the one thing that I've always said that I don't handle well is pain. Like, I'm so fucking powerful, right? I always say I have a low threshold to pain. And so now I'm in pain all the time. Like, I'm like, what the hell? Right? Now I could feel sorry for myself. Right? I've had days. Or I could be like, how incredible is that? The thing that I've been telling myself my whole entire life, I have a low threshold to pain. I have a low threshold. Well, guess what? Now I'm experiencing pain. I mean, I called that one. Right? And so I could be angry. I could be like, disappointed with myself. I could feel guilty. I could feel shame. Or I could just laugh and go, that's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. And so I can release the pain. There's no need, right? Yesterday in the hot tub was like, there's no need for me to be in pain. So I release that. It is done. It is done. Now, the red shell personality would have liked that to have been gone yesterday. Right? And there was still some physical evidence of pain. So if I allow my personality to take over, my ego would say, oh, this shit doesn't work. You should have been out of pain like that. But my divine self is, right, asking me to settle into it, to release the pain, but also to settle into it. There's a message in the pain. And I obviously haven't been paying attention. So what's the message? That's the opportunity that we have. Taking the thing that you're facing and have conversation with it, right? Have conversation with it. What does that want, right? And that can be anything, right? That could be your marketing funnel, your sales funnel, conversations, your website, Facebook, right? Your bank account. Everything has energy. What does your business want? Right? Yeah, right, Sherry? There's a message in the pain, 100%. And that can be physical pain, mental pain, spiritual pain. And there might be multiple layers. we're complex beings. That's what I've come to my conclusion of this last, 6 years. And not complicated, like many layers, multiple layers, complex. Right? A series. I mean, how boring, really, how boring would it be if we just, I'll use my own life as an example. How boring would it be if I had this experience of pain and I went, oh, now I see it, pain begone, and it just went away, right? Because I said so. And there's a part of me that's like, that would be sexy. There's also a part of me like, I think the personality would perceive this as boring. My point of view is that we're here for an experience, whatever that experience is. And that I don't feel like I'm being punished, right, by being in pain, but I do believe that I created the pain 100%. And I do believe there's a message here for me in the pain, right? And, it's my 2x4 that I shared with you yesterday. There was a message a long time ago, and I wasn't listening. And so now I have to listen. And that's been my story. That's been my story. And I don't think there are coincidences or accidents. And so just be in the flow. Be in the flow. And it's really brought into awareness of how important my language is, right? So if I keep on saying how much pain I'm in, guess what? I'm going to be in pain. Right? I noticed yesterday that every time I moved, my first initial thought was, I'm in so much pain. I'm like, don't own that. Right? What else can you say? What else can you say? Because I don't plan on not moving and I don't plan on being in a wheelchair. So what else could that look like for me? Right? And that's the same with whatever we're experiencing, right? Yeah. Sherry, I love that. So those of you who are listening to the calls, Sherry says, I love how your calls either align with conversations she's had the day before or what I talk about here aligns with what comes up in the day ahead. Absolutely. Right. And that's what's so cool about these calls is that each one of you has an energetic signature that you bring to the call, right? And then I'm guided to just share. So the calls are awesome because all of you are awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being here with me. All right, we'll close up the call today. Once again, everyone, happy Mother's Day to all of you who are celebrating Mother's Day. Have an incredible day today. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Mwah, big hugs.